Today's near-death experience comes from a 52-year-old man. He suffered a serious accidental injury while attending school. He meets a man in a white robe and is asked to make a choice. What will he choose in the end? Let's begin our story today. My parents owned a gas station, which was not very large. There are only 3 employees in total. Sometimes I would help out on weekends when it was busy. I was mainly responsible for greeting customers and collecting money. My father would give me some salary, although it was not much, but I was still very happy. I can buy some things I like. Our gas station was quite remote and surrounded by mountains. When it wasn't very busy, I would go to the mountains to play. One weekend, I came to the gas station to help again. It was already very cold and some of the ground was frozen. Business was very bad that day. In one morning, there were only 10 customers. After lunch, I finished the work my dad had arranged for me. I asked him if I could go to the mountain to play for a while. My father agreed and told me to be safe. There was a big rock on the mountain. I often sat on the rock and admired the view below. This time, I still climbed up to the rock skillfully. But then an accident happened. It had been snowing for the previous few days, and when the snow and ice melted, the soil became very soft. When I sat on top of the rock, I fell down with it. The rock landed right on top of me. I can't remember many details of that time. I just thought internally, I'm dead. The next thing I knew, I was floating in the air. I was stunned, I didn't know who I was. Where I was. There was a feeling of memory loss. I tried to adapt myself to my surroundings. I looked around carefully. The world I saw now was completely different from what I had seen before. Instantly, my head was flooded with knowledge. As I stared at the stone, I knew its composition and it was very precise. My mind also became agile. I saw a body, which was crushed under the stone. Its face became distorted. It was covered with mud and there was a lot of blood on its hands. It was not breathing. The face looked familiar. But I didn't know where I had seen it before. Then it occurred to me. This was my face. It looked different, partly because it was dead, and partly because I always saw my own face in the mirror. But it looked, now, both familiar and unfamiliar. It was then that all my memories came flooding back to me. Who I had been, who my family and friends were, what I had done, what I had thought. I was dead, so why wasn't I completely gone again? Now I don't know what to expect. I start to miss my family. They would be so sad to know that I was dead. Next, I began to pray. My God, what do I do now? What would happen next? Although I also believe in Jesus, I am not considered a devout believer. Am I going to hell? Suddenly, I felt warmth, and it came from behind me. I saw a man with wavy black hair and a black beard, and his skin looked healthy. His eyes were like diamonds, and they shone in the light. He was wearing a long white robe and it was glowing. He smiled at me and I was immediately overwhelmed with love. He communicated with me directly with his thoughts, without using any words. He told me it was an accident and that I could choose to go back if I wanted to. I told him, that body could not be used any longer, it was crushed. He told me, if you choose to go back, he can make it work again. I was curious and asked him, What would happen if I chose to go back and what would happen if I didn't? I got a clear answer. If I chose not to go back, my sister started drinking and her life was lost. My dad blamed himself for my death. I also saw the grief of other family members. This hurt is ongoing. My mother lived in constant grief, seeing that I would cause so much pain to others. Now I also have a second answer. If I choose to go back, my sister will meet a boy who loves her very much. My grandfather is proud of me because I am his first grandson to go to college. My grandfather had never been to school, so he knew the importance of knowledge. When my father graduated from high school, he was happy for days. I already had the answer. I chose to go back. I didn't want to be a selfish person. But he reminded me that I might suffer some pain in my future and it would affect the rest of my life. I chose to come back anyway. He smiled with satisfaction, as if he knew I would choose the harder path. In an instant, I was back in my body. I felt my body fill with power. I struggled to adjust my breathing, pushed the rock that was pressing against me away. I had lost the feeling in my legs. But I was still alive. It was slowly getting dark and I knew I had to get help soon. Just then, I saw two boys, one of whom I knew. His father ran a convenience store right next to the gas station. I told him to run and find my dad. I was hurt badly. The other boy, who I didn't know, ran to tell his dad. My dad finally found me and I could see panic in his eyes. He tried to pick me up and get out of there. I told him not to do that because my spine was broken. Soon, the ambulance showed up. The trip to the hospital felt very long. On the way, I asked my mom to wipe the blood and mud off my face, which surprised her because how would I know? She took a Kleenex out of her bag and used it to wash my face. Soon after we arrived at the hospital, I was in a coma the whole time because I had lost so much blood. My blood pressure was getting lower and lower. The doctors gave me a thorough examination and found that my internal organs were severely damaged and requested immediate surgery. I was wheeled into the operating room and they gave me an anesthetic. A huge spotlight was hovering over me and the room was very cold. I could hear someone saying, "We are losing him." The doctor opened my chest cavity and I heard him say, "Oh my God." Just then, I left my body again and the room became darker and darker. A tunnel entrance appeared in front of me and I was about to walk closer to observe it when I heard my family praying. They prayed to God to save me. I was back in my body again. When I woke up again, it was 2 days later. All my family was with me, and I was sure I had made the right choice. But I always wondered what was on the other side of the tunnel.